I went vegan because of moral reasoning, not because I love animals. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really love all animals, but that's not necessarily the reason why someone goes vegan. In this video, we are going to talk about the morals of eating animals.
Rise above. Focus on science.
A little background. In my life, I always try to be as logical, as rational as possible. And I try not to let my emotions get the best of me and make my decisions, because that's always a risk. And yes, some decisions need to be made based on emotions, like who are you going to date. But even when dating, I find that applying the principles of logical reasoning really make you a better partner.
Listen, Morty, I hate to break it to you, but what people call love is just a chemical reaction that compels animals to breed. It hits hard, Morty, then it slowly fades, leaving you stranded in a failing marriage. I did it. Your parents are gonna do it. Break the cycle, Morty. Rise above. Focus on science.
Not exactly what I mean. I mean that applying the principles of logical reasoning usually make you a better partner, because a lot of the fights between partners are based on emotions and not on actual facts and on actual logical reasoning. So that's how you become a better partner. I am super fun at parties. So how did I went vegan? I've always been into nutrition and fitness since I was a teenager, since I was like 16. And I spent my days researching things about fitness, nutrition, how to eat, how to work out, and I started following the traditional bodybuilding diet. I was eating a pound of meat a day, plus whey protein, plus eggs, plus yogurts and all of that. I was eating a lot of animal products. And that's the diet that I followed for about 3 years. One day, when I was doing my research, I came across a video on YouTube of a talk by Dr. Michael Greger. The talk is Food as Medicine, Preventing and Treating the Most Common Diseases with Diet. And in this talk, he presents the science that shows that eating a lot of animal products can be bad for you. Now, this came as a shock to me because I thought I was eating really healthy. I was on a bodybuilding diet, but in fact I was eating a lot of animal products, way above any nutritional recommendation. And in the talk, it shows that in order for you to eat animal products and still be healthy, you would need to eat very small quantities, and you didn't really have to eat any to be healthy. You could just not eat animal products and still be healthy, maybe even healthier if your diet was right. And it was at this moment that I first realized, wait a minute. So you're telling me that we humans don't need meat or animal products to be healthy? It's the first time that I'm hearing about this. So if we don't need animal products to be healthy, and that's the science, that's the position of the American Academy of Dietetics and every single nutritional organization. If we don't need animal products to be healthy humans, to thrive as humans, why are we eating animals? Why are we killing all of these animals and destroying the planet? Because at the time I already knew about the environmental impacts of animal agriculture. Why are we doing these things if we don't actually need it to be healthy? And that didn't make any sense to me. And at that moment I had an epiphany. I realized that there was no way I could keep on eating meat. Why? Because I couldn't morally justify eating meat. Because if it's not a necessity, then why do I do it? If it's not something that I need, why do I do it? Logically, it doesn't make any sense to kill an animal if I don't need to do it. And it's not about loving the animals, it's not an emotional decision of being like, oh, poor animals, I don't want to kill you. No, it's a logical decision of knowing that if I don't have the biological necessity of killing an animal, if I can go to the supermarket and find any food that I like, then why am I killing animals? It didn't make any sense to me. And this was logical reasoning at its best. At the time, I really didn't know anything about how animals are treated in the industry. I didn't know anything about how animals are slaughtered, nothing. But I didn't need to know it. Because even if they were really well treated, even if they had the best life ever, at the end, they were still going to be killed. And because I don't need to eat animal products, then killing them is wrong, independently of how they are killed or treated during their lives. Now, if you studied philosophy, you're probably realizing by this point that this is the moral position of the theories by Jeremy Bentham and Stuart Mill. And in this series they say that morality can be subjective. If you need to kill an animal, then it can be right. So if you don't need to kill the animal, it's not right. On the other side of the philosophical moral reasoning, you got Immanuel Kant. And Kant says that there are some things that are categorical imperatives. That means that they are wrong always. They are always wrong. It doesn't matter if you have the necessity or not. It's always wrong to kill. So, if you're on the right of Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham, on the subjective theory, you won't eat animals because you don't have the necessity to do it. It's not morally justified. If you're on the side of Kant, you will never eat animals as well because you won't kill them, because killing is always wrong, no matter if you have the necessity or not. Now, I personally like the Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham theory more, because I do believe that morality is subjective to each and every case. It's not really subjective to the collective conscience, it's not really subjective to ourselves, but it's subjective to each case specifically. So it can be right to kill someone if it's self-defense, and it's morally right. But if you agree with Kant, that might not be your position. You may even think that self-defense is not morally justified. I don't think Kant agrees with that, but depends on how you interpret his theory. So on either one of the moral philosophies, you still can justify eating animals. And this brings me to a lot of different arguments that people use to try and debunk veganism. Because on that moment I thought about every single one of them. The first one is, we always did this. We always killed animals, we always ate animals. And that's absolutely right. Does that logically, morally justify eating animals? No, for two reasons. First, this argument is what it's called an appeal to history fallacy. And if you have a fallacy, then your argument is not valid. And an appeal to history fallacy is when you point to history and say that because we've always been doing this throughout history, then it's morally correct. But it's not, right? We've done a lot of things during history, like killing each other, slavery, not allowing women rights and all of that, and we know that that's wrong, right? We've done a lot of things during history that are not right. So this is an appeal to history fallacy. On the second side, when you point to nature and say, see, we've always done this, yes, it's true, and I would agree that back then it was morally justified, because you had no other option. If you have no other option but to eat animal products, if it's between eating animal products or not eating at all, then you should eat animal products, and that's morally justified. Now, when you have the option, nowadays, when you have the option and you don't have the necessity to eat animal products, that's when killing animals to eat is wrong. The second argument is, it's natural to kill animals to eat. Every animal in nature does it, it's the food chain. Yes, that is correct. But that's an appeal to nature fallacy. That's when you point to nature and say that something you do is right because it happens in nature. That is not necessarily the case. A lot of things happen in nature that shouldn't happen between humans. And again, in nature, there's a necessity. A lion has to kill the zebra or the antelope to survive. But in human life, in most countries, we don't have to kill to survive. We can just go to the supermarket or the local market and eat wherever we want. We have that choice. And it's the opportunity of choice that changes the morality of eating meat. The next argument, and I actually didn't think of this back then, but I heard a lot of people say it to me since then when we talk about veganism. And that is, I don't care that much about animals, or I don't feel that way about animals. I can even kill them myself or watch them get killed. I just don't care. Well, that still doesn't make it morally justifiable. Because it's not about you liking the animal or not, like I said in the beginning. It's about you understanding that killing when you don't have the necessity to kill is wrong. Just because you personally don't care about something doesn't mean that it's morally justifiable for you to cause that thing. Just because you can watch an animal die or kill it yourself doesn't mean that it's morally justifiable. It would only be morally justifiable if you had the actual need of killing the animal. And that brings me to the next argument, and this is an hypothetical argument that a lot of people use to try and debunk veganism. If you were stranded on a desert island, just you and the pig, would you kill the pig to eat it? And in that scenario, I say yes, it is morally justified to kill and eat the pig. Because that's the most rational thing that you can do. Because it's out of necessity. Plus, you're probably both gonna die anyway, and the pig is gonna die anyway. So you just kill him and you live longer, and maybe you're gonna get out of that because you live longer, because your chances increase the more you live. And when you come back, you can go on a crusade and save all the animals and all the pigs that you want. Now, on this topic, going back to Jeremy Bentham, Stuart Mill and Kant, let's say on the stranded island, for Kant, it could be always wrong for you to kill the pig, but on the other side, it can be right for you to kill the pig because it's subjective to that specific moment and you have the necessity. Now, I'm not sure that Kant wouldn't kill the pig, but still, that's really interesting. The next argument is everybody does it, so it's okay. I also thought of this, and a lot of people use this because it's culturally acceptable to eat meat and everybody does it, then I can do it. Well, that's an appeal to popularity fallacy. Just because a lot of people or most people do something doesn't mean that that thing is correct. And the last argument is, well, if the animal is well treated, if it's grass-fed, if it has a quick, painless death, then I'll eat it and I have no problem with it. Well, that's still not the point, right? It still doesn't morally justify it, because you still don't need to kill the animal. Doesn't matter how well you treat it, doesn't matter that you give him a shot and he just dies without feeling it, as if he was falling asleep. It's still wrong because you didn't have the necessity to do it. Now, this brings me to a very interesting point. When you were stranded on that desert island with a pig, eating the animal was morally justified, okay? But this is when the way you kill the animal is actually important for the moral worth of your action. Because if you choose a way to kill the animal that will make him suffer a lot, then on that second level your morality is not justified. But if you try to do it as fast and painless as possible, then yes, it would be morally justified on that second level. On the first level, it's justified to kill him, but the way you kill him is also important here, because if it was necessary to eat animal products, then the grass-fed option and all of that would be better. But because it's not at the base morally justifiable, because it's not a necessity, then you don't even go up in the hierarchy of the morals, I guess. And this brings me to the last point that a lot of people make. Just because I eat meat, that doesn't make me a bad person. Of course, no one says that, and anyone who says that is wrong and is probably stupid. Because just because someone eats meat doesn't mean that that person is a bad person. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of decisions that a person makes and traits that a person person has that will make that person a good or bad person. And good persons also make bad decisions sometimes. And eating meat doesn't make you a bad person, especially because most people have never thought of this, because it's culturally appropriate to eat meat. But you have watched this video and you have thought of this.